as we pause, right, for our it's easier than you think. And it's easier than you think to catch your complaining spirit. Right, you're complaining. And we're going to talk about a very specific type of complaining. Not the normal type of complaining when you're complaining about something going wrong, right? Or receiving something that wasn't your expectation, right? Not that kind of complaining, but the kind of complaining that we do when we're putting in an effort and we complain it's still not enough. That kind of complaining. Now we need to really work on this because it's going to shift if you're 2024. And the kind of complaining that you do, that even though it's not, you know, your best work or your best effort, you still showed up. But you still complain that it wasn't enough. And I'm going to give you examples of this. I'm going to give you many examples of it. So that you kind of get the gist of where I'm going with this. And what you can change in your own life from this conversation. And also for you to see and catch where you're doing it in your own life. So imagine you go to a yoga class and you show up, you do the class, it wasn't your best, you were tired, you were grumpy, you were just not into it. And you didn't give it your best effort. You just went through the motions. But yoga is a practice of accumulation. You know, your poses, your more advanced poses, don't get better with one class. They get better over time. Your meditation practice, you know, might not have been the best today. But your stress going down, your ability to focus, take time for yourself, that pause, it allows you to just do what you can do that day without complaining that you didn't go into samadhi. Right? You didn't get a download or some divine message. But I see people always complain that even when they're making an effort, there's a complaint about the effort that they are themselves making. That it's not enough. Now, when you're constantly complaining every effort that you're doing, even if it's a crap effort, you're still tried. And you're always complaining, oh my God, it's just not enough, it wasn't good enough, it wasn't my best. You know, that is also diminishing the effort that you're making. Or you're always the berater. Or it's just mean to, you know, you wouldn't do it to a friend who was, dragged themselves to a yoga class, not really wanting to do it, feeling a little down and maybe even depressed, but they still showed up for the class. But this act of complaining can sometimes be habitual. Many years ago, during the pandemic, I was coming through Heathrow Airport, and there was a queue in the connection up to Scotland, and there was a woman, and she was having a moment with all the guards asking when we could get through. She was going to miss her flight. And I was just standing there. And she looked at me and she said, "Sometimes you just feel like a moan." And I started to laugh. I said, sometimes it feels good for the soul, right? Just to have a good old moan. And she laughed and I laughed. And then the gates, the doors opened and we were on our way. But sometimes if we don't catch that that's all we do all the time is moan. We don't have that laughter, right? Because sometimes it does. It feels good to moan about things. But imagine if you're always moaning about any effort that's getting made. Always complaining. And we're talking about the internal complaining, right? That even if I'm making an effort with my meditation, with my yoga practice, with my energy, with my reiki practice, with my tapping, and I'm making an effort and I'm getting there and I'm journaling. But if I'm always complaining that it's not happened yet, whatever it is that hasn't happened, then that's also taking the energy out of even the effort. That you gave it a go. You showed up. So I think this holiday season, give yourself a little cheer. Give yourself a little cheer of, even if you think that was a crappy effort, that you actually showed up. You weren't in the mood. You didn't feel like it. But you did your meditation practice today. You did your energy practice. It wasn't the best. You didn't get, anything download or any message. But you gave yourself that time. And I think sometimes when people have kids see that. Kids see that it's never enough, right? Doesn't matter what they do, it's never enough. Because they also learn that from their parents. That no matter what they do, that it's never enough. Rather than maybe what I did today was enough. It was right on time, hit the spot. It was just what I had in me. And that was good for today. And it was just what I needed. Because if we are always taking this energy out of our effort, then the effort is diluted. And then we become despondent at even making an effort, even trying. Right? That's what they say failure is. Not even giving it a go. Not even trying. Because sometimes we don't get, and very much our spiritual practice is like this. It's an accumulative practice. Your energy work, your meditation, it is all a consistent accumulation of just showing up. And people who do have a practice, you know that. You know that when you don't do it for a few days, or, whether that's, your meditation, your yoga, you see it unravel very, very quickly. You see yourself be a little down or disconnected. So that accumulation, even if you just did it for a minute, you just stopped and you connected, then have the grace for yourself to say, that's all I had today. And I don't know why, but it was good for now. Good for now, and then it gets better and better. But that's what I wanted to talk about today, about complaining. Complaining of even the effort you do make. Even I see it with people who lift weights. If they're always thinking it's never enough what they're doing, they never really get the results that they're wanting. Because it's here, right? So if you're cutting yourself down with anything that you're doing, then I think if you can work on that between now and the end of the year, and I'm not meaning be your full cheerleader and cheating yourself on every little thing that you do, but it definitely is that acknowledgement of the complaint of when you do something, that it wasn't enough, that it wasn't good enough. And that's the complaining that we're talking about here. But you have to catch it. You have to catch yourself coming out of something, or doing something, or doing it lackluster, or doing it lazy, or doing it whatever, and heeding that self-berating, self-meanness, self-complaint that you decided to ask for the internal, complaint division. Or maybe it's so habitual you haven't caught it yet because you don't even realize that you're doing it. So give it a go. Try it out. That your effort is what your effort is for today, and take out the complaining before or after it. So that's it's easier than you think. Stop overthinking things, or you make yourself neurotic. I see a lot of neurosis in, a spiritual practice. That's why it's pause and joy. We like to enjoy our connection, our practice. Even the more difficult and challenging things that we have to look at as individuals. We enjoy catching that part of ourselves and being like, wow, can you believe that's what I was thinking? I was doing that. But that takes a lot of grace. And humility to have a neutralness with certain behaviors or certain mindsets that you have. So there's no complaining, but there is a like, wow, I was thinking that, wow. I get to change that, I get to shift that. That's the realization that you are, moving things. Rather than hating on yourself and complaining that you were doing that. Yeah, you are. Maybe you've been doing it all your life. Are you willing to see something that you've been doing all your life and having that openness to change it? Having the willingness to admit it. Oh my goodness, this is how I'm thinking. I need to shift that. That's just even in the acknowledgement that you are thinking and having a mindset a certain way is part of the shift. Just the acknowledgement. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is the revelation, the revealing, the admittance. With no complaint about it, just it's a matter of fact. That's how we evolve. Yes, and someone saying, Pia's saying that's freedom, right? The freedom to see, the freedom to be, the freedom to be in the grace of who you are and know that, you're trying. So it's important to acknowledge the complaining when you're giving yourself the effort, or even if it's a rubbish effort, not be complaining afterwards. That's where you're at. That's, it's like when I'm working with people who are creatives and they're in the studio and they have a bad session in the studio, or it's not coming through yet. They're not complaining that they've wasted time in the studio. They're seeing it as part of their process of, we went in there, it just didn't come through, but we have to sit with it a little more, or we moved some bars around. But that's where the effort was at. But if you're constantly complaining, nothing's happening, or it's not good enough, you're going to get more of that. And then wondering why you're not advancing. Because you're the one taking the juice out of it. Even if it was a substandard effort. Right? It was a rubbish effort today, but it's all I had in me, and I at least showed up. Artists know this. You could be pacing and pacing and pacing, looking at a blank canvas for weeks, sitting with your coffee and tea in front of it, feeling that anxiousness until something happens. And all of those efforts to be in front and be annoyed and be giving up and surrendering that nothing's happening is all part of it. It's all part of the process. The fear of the blank canvas, the fear of the not knowing, but still looking at it. And that's the same with your meditation practice. It's the same with your Reiki practice. It's the same. Everything is accumulating until it tips over. But you never know when that's going to be. You know, you can be like, have I not had any samadhi today? Like, well, I'm going to give up my meditation practice. Some people never go into any kind of samadhi, into any kind of divine bliss. They're just in the practice of being in meditation. But you don't stop doing your practice because you're not getting that download, or you're not getting that message, or you're not getting the moment of divine bliss. Because it's an accumulative practice. And the more you complain about it, the more you move away from that. So let's try and be aware when you are doing something, and especially when you're starting something that you're not good at, right? And complaining. Or sometimes you have grace for when you're practicing something that you're not good at. Other times it comes when you are good at something and it's just not, you're not getting the same effort, you're not getting the same extraction from it. And then you complain afterwards. So let's give that up for this holiday season, for the end of 2023, is stop the complaining at any effort that you give. And just be like, oh, no, that's where I was at today. I showed up, and that was where I was at. Whether that's in your Pilates or your walk, or you went for a walk, you didn't go for your hike. I usually hike, but I just went for a walk around the block. But you moved. So cut back on the complaining, right? It's like in the holiday, you know, when you're, I usually eat so well. It's the holiday time of the year. It's like, don't eat something and then complain about eating it. Eat it and enjoy it. And get back to your, what you usually eat tomorrow. But right now, enjoy what you are consuming that your friend made. Whatever pie or whatever thing that you're going out to have. They can be found in all different places. And sometimes even see the kids, how they will get, frustrated and complaining that their work isn't, rather than, well, you did it. That's it. You're doing it. And encouraging the doing, encouraging the action, encouraging that with each one it's an accumulative practice, whether it's their art, whether it's their music, right? I think kids learn that when they do sports. They see themselves getting better and better with each effort, but sometimes they complain that they didn't have a good game, or they didn't do it right, or it wasn't the same, or they lost, right? That game. And that's also part of, rather than complaining, but sitting with, how did that feel? Yeah, well, you're going to get better, because we're all going to get better from the losses. So sit with that. Because I think it's going to give you a little bit more energy this holiday season. Because there's just so much complaining. And I hope this helps. So good to see you all. And yes, it's easier than you think. Because we overthink everything. And just be with where you are at.